Good morning. It's Thursday, July 2nd, morning meditation with Lorrie.
Hi, this is Lorrie Bradford for St. Andrews. I'm going to be reading a passage from Max Lucado's Grace. This is Ephesians. Be kind to each other, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, just as God, through Christ, has forgiven you. To accept grace is to accept the vow to give it. Now, this is a passage he is speaking, Max Lucado. If hurts were hairs, we'd all look like grizzlies, even the smooth-skinned beauties of the magazine covers, the composed pastors in the pulpit, the sweet little old ladies who live next door. All of them, all of us. Furry, hairy creatures we become. If hurts were hairs, we'd be lost behind the thick of them. For aren't there so many hurts? When kids mock the way you walk, their insults hurt. When teachers ignore your work, their neglect hurts. When your girlfriend drops you, when your husband abandons you, when the company fires you, it hurts. Rejection always does. As surely as summer brings sun, so people bring pain. Sometimes deliberately, sometimes randomly. Victoria Revolvo can tell you about random pain. On November evening 2004, this 44-year New Yorker was driving to her home on Long Island. She had just attended her niece's recital and was ready for the couch, a warm fire and relaxation. She doesn't remember seeing the silver Nissan approaching from the east. She remembers nothing of the 18-year-old boy leaning out the window, holding, of all things, a frozen turkey. He threw it at her windshield. The 20-pound bird crashed to the glass, bent the steering wheel inward, and shattered her face like a dimmer plate on concrete. The violent prank left her grappling for life in the ICU. She survived, but only after doctors wired her jaw, affixed one eye by a synthetic wire, and bolted titanium plates to her cranium. She can't look in the mirror without being reminded of her hurt. You weren't hit by a turkey, but you married one, worked for one, got left by one. Now where do you turn? Hitman.com? Jim Beam and Friends? Pity party, catering services. We can relate to the reaction of some U.S. soldiers in Afghanistan. A troop member received a Dear John letter. He was devastated. To add insult to injury, his girl wrote, "Please return my favorite picture of myself because I would like to use it for the photograph for my engagement picture in the country newspaper." Ouch. But his buddies came to his defense. They went through the barracks, collected pictures of all the other soldiers' girlfriends. They filled an entire shoebox. The jilted soldier mailed the photos to his ex-girlfriend with a note. "Please find your enclosed picture and return the rest. For the life of me, I can't remember which one you were." Retaliation has appeal, but Jesus has a better idea. John 13 records the events of the final night before Jesus' death. He and his followers had gathered in the upper room for Passover. John begins his narrative with a lofty statement. Jesus knew that the Father had given him authority over everything, and that he had come from God and would return to God. Jesus knew who and why of his life. Who was he? God's Son. Why was he on earth? To serve the Father. Jesus knew his identity and his authority. So, he got up from the table, took off his robe, wrapped a towel around his waist, and poured water into a basin. Then he began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel he had around him. John 13. Jesus, CEO, head coach, king of the world, sovereign of the seas, washed feet. I'm not a fan of feet. Look you in the face? I will. Shake your hand? Gladly. Put an arm around your shoulders? Happy to do so. Huh? Rub a tear from the cheek of a child? In a heartbeat. But rub feet? Ew. Come on. Feet stink. No one creates a cologne named Athlete's Foot Deluxe or Gym Sock Musk. Feet are not known for their sweet smell or their good looks. The businessman doesn't keep a framed photo of his wife's toes on his desk. Grandparents don't carry ankle-down pictures of their grandkids. Aren't those the cutest little arches you've ever seen? You want to see faces, not feet. Feet have heels, feet have toenails, bunions, fungus, corns, and calluses, and planter's warts, some large enough to warrant a zip code. Feet have little piggies that go wee, wee, wee all the way home. Forgive me, you people of podiatry, society of the soul, but I'm not numbered among you. Feet smell bad and look ugly, which I believe at this point of the story. Jesus touched those stinky, ugly parts of his disciples, knowing he came from God, knowing he was going to God, knowing he would arch an eyebrow or clear his throat, and every angel of the universe would snap to attention, knowing that all authority was his. He exchanged his robe for the servant's wraps, lowered himself to knee level, and began to rub away the grime, the grit, the grunge their feet had collected during the journey. This was the assignment of a slave, the job of a servant. When the master came home from the day spent walking on the cobblestone streets, he expected a foot wash. The lowliest servers met him at the door with a towel and water. But in the upper room, there was no servant. Pitcher of water, yes, basin and towel, in the corner on the table, but no one touched them. No one stirred. Each disciple hoped someone else would reach for the basin. Peter thought John would. John thought Andrew would. Each apostle assumed someone else would wash the feet. And someone did. Jesus didn't exclude a single follower, though he wouldn't have faulted if he bypassed Philip. When Jesus told the disciples to feed the throng of 5,000 hungry people, Philip, in effect, had retorted, "It's impossible," John 6. So what does Jesus do with someone who questions his commands? Apparently he washes their feet. James and John lobbied for cabinet-level positions in Christ's kingdom. So what does Jesus do when people use his kingdom for their personal advancement? He slides a basin in their direction. Peter quit trusting Jesus in the storm. He tried to talk Jesus out of going to the cross. Within hours, Peter would curse the very name of Jesus and hightail his way into hiding. In fact, all 24 of Jesus' followers' feet would soon scoot, leaving Jesus to face his accusers alone. Did you ever wonder what God does with promise breakers? He washes their feet. And Judas, the lying, conniving, greedy rat who sold Jesus down the river for a pocket of cash, Jesus won't wash his feet, will he? Surely not. If he washes the feet of his Judas, you will have to wash the feet of yours. Your betrayer, your turkey-throwing misfit and miscreant, that ne'er-do-well, that good-for-nothing villain. Jesus' Judas walked away with 30 pieces of silver. Your Judas walked away with your virginity, your security, your spouse, job, childhood, retirement, or investments. You expect me to wash his feet and let him go? Most people don't want to. They use a villain's photo as a target practice. If Vesuvius blows up every now and again, sending hate airborne, polluting, stinks in the world, most people keep a pot of anger on low boil. But you aren't most people. Grace has happened to you. Look at your feet. They are wet, grace-soaked. Your toes and arches and heels have felt the cool basin of God's grace. Jesus has washed the grimiest parts of your life. He didn't bypass you and carry the basin towards someone else. If Greece were a wheat field, he's bequeathed you to the state of Kansas. Can't you share your grace with others? Since I, the Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to wash each other's. I have given you an example to follow. Do as I have done to you. John 13. To accept grace is to accept the vow to give it. Victoria Rivolo did 9 months after her disastrous November night. She stood face to titanium bolted face with her offender in court. Ryan Cushing was no longer the cocky, turkey-tossing kid in the museum. He was trembling and tearful and apologetic. For New York City had come to symbolize a generation of kids out of control. People packed the room to see him get his comeuppance. The judge's sentence enraged them. Not only 6 months behind the bars, 5 years probation, counseling, and public service. The court erupted. Everyone objected. Everyone, that is, except Victoria. The reduced sentence was her idea. The boy walked over and she braced him, a full view of the judge and the crowd. She held him tight, stroked his hair. He sobbed. And she spoke, I forgive you. I want your life to be the best it can be. She allowed grace to shape her response. God, give me a second chance at life, and I pass it on. She said of her largest, if I can't let go of anger, I'd be consumed by this need for revenge. Forgiving him helps me move on. Her mishap led to her mission, volunteering with the country probation department. I am trying to help others, but I know for the rest of my life I'd be known as the turkey lady. Could have been worse. You could have thrown a ham. I could be Miss Piggy. Victoria knows how to fill a basin. And you? Build a prison if you want, each brick by brick, each brick by hurt, designed with one cell and one bunk, because you will not attract roommates. Hang a large video screens on each of the 4 walls so recorded images of the fence can play over and over and over 24 hours a day. Headphones available on request. Appealing? No, appalling. Harbor grudge sucks the joy out of life. Revenge won't paint the blue back on your sky or restore the spring in your step. No, it will leave you bitter and bent and angry. Give the grace that you've been given. You don't endorse the deeds of your offenders when you do. Jesus didn't expose your sins by forgiving you. Grace doesn't tell the daughter to like the father who molested her. It doesn't tell the oppressed to wink at injustice. The grace-defined person still sends thieves to jail and expects an ex to pay child support. Grace is not blind. It sees the hurt full well, but grace chooses to see God's forgiveness even more. It refuses to let hurts poison the heart. See to it that no one misses the grace of God, and that no bitter root grows up to cause trouble and defile many. Hebrews 12. When grace is lacking, bitterness abounds. Where grace abounds, forgiveness grows. October 2nd, 2006, around 10 a.m., Charles Carl Roberts entered West Nichols Mine, Amish School in Pennsylvania. He carried a 9mm handgun, a 12-gauge shotgun, a rifle, a bag of black powder, 2 knives, tools, a stun gun, 600 rounds of ammunition, KY sex lubricant, wire, and plastic ties. Using plastic ties, he bound 12 girls, ages 6 to 15. As he prepared to shoot them, Marion Fisher, 13, stepped forward and said, "Shoot me first." Her younger sister, Barbie, alleged asked Roberts to shoot her second. He shot 10 girls. He then killed himself. 3 of the girls died immediately. 2 others died in the hospital by the next morning. The tragedy stunned the nation. The forgiveness of the Amish community, even more so. More than half the people who attended Robert's funeral Amish. An Amish midwife who had helped birth several of the girls murdered by the killer had made plans to take food to his family's house. This is possible if you have Christ in your heart. Sequence matters. Jesus washes first, we wash next. He demonstrates, we follow. He uses a towel when extended to us, saying, "Now you do it. Walk across the floor to your upper room and wash the feet of your Judas." So, go ahead, get your feet wet, remove your socks and shoes, and set your feet in the basin. First one, then the other. Let the hands of God wipe away every dirty part of your life. Your dishonesty, adultery, angry outbursts, hypocrisy, pornography. Let him touch all. As his hands do their work, look across the room. Forgiveness may not happen all at once, but it can happen with you, and after all, you have wet feet. I thank you, and this is the end of Thursdays.
Lorrie, that was
Lorrie.
absolutely awesome.
Great.
Lorrie.
Okay. I will see you next week.
Thank you
Sounds
all.
good.
Have a
Thank
good week.
you.
Thank you.